Tony Schiavone is in the ring and brings out CM Punk, followed by Hangman Page, and it was a pretty big CM Punk chant, but, they both had their supporters in this, which contributed to the segment. And Punk notes that some will say that the biggest moment of his career happened here in Las Vegas.
I think most would say that.
And he loves the fans, and respectfully, he says that he is going to be coming out of Double or Nothing as the champion, and is just a pretty straightforward message from Punk. And Page gets the microphone, and he is definitely receiving a mixed reaction, and says that nothing that Punk can do will be able to take the title away from him. And Punk says, I don't know why you're taking this so personally. There's a whole locker room that are after you because you're the champion, and that's all I'm doing. It's my turn to try and become the champion. And Page explains that I said I would embarrass and annihilate you, but I'm not going to do that at Double or Nothing. I'm going to do it right now. And says I could roll up a pipe bomb and roll it up to your feet. But he realizes I can't do that. Not because I'm afraid of getting fired or of you, but it's what you would do in this situation. And he's basically stating that in Punk's cowardice, he would go for a pipe bomb. And he pities CM Punk. He has no respect for what he's done since coming to AEW, and says a champion is determined by what happens when the red light goes off and what you do when you don't think anyone else is watching. You talk about workers' rights, and yet when you've come here, you've done the exact opposite. This is my home, and I'm defending all of AEW from you. And Punk says that you're really talking in circles. This is like one big riddle. And he says that he respects Page, and that the road traveled to get here was paved by me, and that this house was constructed by the tree that I chopped. I gave the blueprint for what would be AEW. And he's telling Page, you're going to shake my hand. And he puts his hand and then shoves Hangman, who just nails Punk with this huge punch and drops Punk to the floor. And he is left with a smile as Hangman takes off with the idea that he played into Punk's game and he got emotional and struck him here. I thought the crowd was really into this. I thought the performances were good, but I thought that the Page side certainly needed to be fleshed out a lot more. Like this to me was the start of something, and not like you were just left with, I think, a lot of questions. Like, what are you referring to? And this was not a go home promo for me a couple days before the match.
I thought it was a good segment overall, and I thought Page's delivery was really strong.
Both were very good in their deliveries, and the crowd was certainly like they were reacting to this, to both of them.
In terms of fire, in terms of passion, in terms of confidence, in terms of smoothness, I thought if you weren't necessarily paying attention to the content, it sounded very much, at least from Page's side, like a go-home segment promo. But you're right. That's what I kind of came away from this segment thinking. It felt like it was on its way to being a home run segment and a home run promo from Page. But when you really listen to the words, you're left asking questions. What does he mean by saying that, Punk vouches for workers' rights, but when he's there, he doesn't live up to it? What exactly is he talking about? What's your interpretation of that line?
I mean, you're left to interpretation. Like, is he trying to workers' rights? Like
and you and I, like watching this show this closely, we can't be the only two thinking that. So it's a line that sounded really intriguing when he introduced it, but we needed a little bit more. Like, if he was going to go for the juggler and this was the time to do it, he needs to exactly spell out what it was that CM Punk wasn't doing. And the fact that he was teasing his own pipe bomb here, I love that, by the way, about when he said, when I said that I was going to destroy you, I didn't mean at the pay-per-view. I meant tonight. And I thought he was about to, you made people excited thinking that you're about to give us your own version of the pipe bomb on CM Punk. And then he just took it away. He says, I'm not going to do it after all, because that's what you would have to do. I guess that logic somewhat makes sense, but come on, when you tease a pipe bomb, you got to deliver.
This would have been more effective to just go for it here in this segment and really, do something significant, give your rationale. And you really are getting off into left field territory when we're suddenly, getting a promo about workers' rights and stuff and trying to turn that
listen,
into...
but the point is you needed to make it personal. And Page teased a level of anger and aggression that felt personal from him, but he didn't convey what exactly those issues were to the audience. And again,
you come out of this with this idea that this guy is that Page's assertion is that this guy is a hypocrite. And at the very exactly, that's what it's missing. I think you can at least take away the idea that he has a personal issue with CM Punk, but that needed to be fleshed out a lot more. Like the first confrontation should have been that revelation of what he thinks of as Punk. And he did cut that pretty scathing promo on Punk at the beginning. But you were just introducing so much here. And now you go into this show on Sunday that it requires follow-up. And maybe there will be after Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, there's. I think the feud is getting hot enough, but I think there's still more story to be told, and I think greater peaks, in terms of the rivalry here between these two for us to reach. So therefore, I don't necessarily feel like we're going to get a conclusive ending on Sunday. I mean, maybe we'll get a title change, maybe not. I'm still kind of going either way, but I feel like we're going to get a rematch coming out of this especially because Punk is playing this kind of so even keeled. He's approaching this sort of like the veteran who's not too emotionally bothered. Like he says, he's coming here and it's business for him. But I think it perfectly sets up a chapter 2 in a rematch where Punk is now this time taking it more personally and taking it more aggressively. Maybe Page, leans in a bit more towards the heel side of things. I don't know. But I think this is sort of like, if we're talking about on a scale of like 0 to 10 in terms of like how hot the feud is, I think we're maybe at, like a 7.5 when I think it really has the potential to reach a 10.
Are you pretty optimistic about how they're going to draw on pay-per-view? Because, in the past couple of pay-per-views, you can assign like drawing power to many different matches. I would say the success of this show is really on this match. Mm-hmm. And I would say to a lesser degree, MJF and Wardlow. But this is a pay-per-view where we have the undisputed main event. There is no question what the main event is of this show.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say more so than Page versus Punk, which of course is really great. I think it's more the idea of CM Punk going for the championship. Mm-hmm. That is the headlining thing. And what I mean by that, is that I want to see a rematch coming out of this where the idea hopefully coming out of it is that Page is ascended to that level. So that the next time they do one of these big matches, I'm not necessarily just thinking about Punk going for the championship as a draw, but Page going, for revenge as a draw perhaps. But I think Punk going for the championship alone is enough, to be a headlining attraction. And don't get me wrong, like I'm talking like, Page is not a big deal. He is a big deal because he delivers every time in ring. He's incredibly consistent, and you're almost guaranteed a really amazing main event here. So I think all those factors kind of play into, the attraction of this main event. So yeah, I probably wouldn't put it on anything else if this does well or doesn't do well.